everybody? Welcome back into the FantasyPros YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wenzel, and today we're talking about 10 players that you should be looking to stash ahead of this weekend slate and ahead of next week's waivers as well. But before we dive into that list, if you want a chance at winning a glorious 36-inch fantasy championship trophy for your fantasy league, courtesy of our good friends over at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy tournament trophies, you need to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on this video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can come claim your prize. Let's kick this list off with Josh Downs, Indianapolis Colts wide receiver, who's rostered in 26% of leagues. Downs feels like a frequent flyer on these lists, but he's going to continue getting more involved in this Colts offense. He put up his best line of the season in Week 5, finishing with 6 receptions on 6 targets for 97 yards. That was good for 15.7 fantasy points. Downs' best 2 games this year have actually come when Gardner Minshew stepped in for Anthony Richardson. Downs drew a 27% target share in Week 3 against the Ravens when Anthony Richardson was out with a concussion. Now with Richardson on IR, we could see Downs settle in with Gardner Minshew and string together a few fantasy-relevant weeks over the next month. Second on our list is Keaontay Ingram, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, who's rostered in 13% of leagues. The social media frenzy this week has been that Emari Demercado was initially the back you wanted off of the waiver wire. Yet midweek, Arizona's depth chart listed Keaontay Ingram as the team's lead back. So which is it? There is a case for both sides, but that's why I'm going to stash Keaontay Ingram while James Conner is on IR. Ingram hasn't been mega successful with James Conner out. He only has 15 carries for 26 yards in 4 games without him. But that being said, Eno Benjamin was the preferred backup in the past, but he's no longer with the team. So until things get sorted out on who's the lead back in Arizona, it's worth stashing Keaontay Ingram. Up next is Jaguars wide receiver Zay Jones, who's rostered in 30% of leagues. I'd be remiss to not name the fact that Zay Jones is dealing with a knee injury, and as of this recording, he hasn't practiced yet this week. This has been an injury he's been dealing with throughout the season though, which is why I'm okay stashing him even if he doesn't suit up. He drew 13 targets over the first 2 weeks of the season before missing weeks 3 and 4. He was also on pace to hit that number again in Week 5 before he left in the second half against the Bills. The number that intrigues me though is that he's seen 7 red zone targets this year in only 2.5 games played. That number is 7th best amongst all wide receivers. So if you do stash Zay Jones, keep in mind you may be without him for a week, but he's still a great stash and an occasional spot start. Fourth on our list is New Orleans Saints running back Kendre Miller, who's rostered in 15% of leagues. It's not every week the Saints get to play a struggling Patriots team, but Miller gave plenty of reason for optimism on Sunday. You'd like to see him turn 12 carries into more than 37 yards, but he caught 4 passes for 53 yards, which was a healthy box score boost. Jamal Williams is still on IR for at least another week before his 21-day practice window can be opened, and should Miller continue to prove himself as the team's worthy backup, there is a chance he overtakes Jamal Williams' role as the backup in this offense. It also doesn't hurt that he draws the Texans and Bears in 2 of the next 4 weeks. Coming in next is Robert Woods, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, who's rostered in 17% of leagues. Bobby Trees has done nothing but get volume this year. He's drawn 9+ targets in 3 of 5 games. On the season, he's earned 40 total targets, which is 16th best. He's seen a target on nearly 26% of his routes, and he's seeing usage in the red zone. 6 red zone targets is good for 13th best amongst the position this year. Now you add in that Tank Dell is currently in concussion protocol and, as of this recording, isn't expected to play in Week 6. Woods could certainly see an uptick in usage this week against the Saints before heading into the team's bye in Week 7. My tight end stash of the week is the same as last week's. Jonnu Smith of the Atlanta Falcons is rostered in only 17% of leagues. Now, Kyle Pitts did outpace him last week, as he reasonably should, but Jonnu has still earned 27 targets since Week 2, which is the 7th most at the position. I know Jonnu is not the flashiest, highest upside name out there, but if you need a guaranteed 8 to 12 points in your lineup at the tight end spot, Jonnu is your guy. The tight end position in fantasy football is just so barren that if you're tired of striking out on streaming options, Jonnu can be your weekly plug and play guy. The 7th player on our list is Carolina Panthers wide receiver Jonathan Mingo, who's rostered in 8% of leagues. When Mingo is on the field, he is playing a ton. In fully healthy games this year, Mingo hasn't seen less than an 86% snap share. For context, Jackson Smith-Njigba's highest is 59%, Quentin Johnston's is 51%, and Jordan Addison's is 75%, all of which went ahead of him in the 2023 NFL Draft. Carolina has proven they're going to be in plenty of pass-heavy game scripts over the course of the season, which means there should be more and more opportunity for Mingo as the season goes on. He's seen at least 5 targets in every game this year. Add in that he gets the Dolphins, Colts, and Bears in 3 of his next 4 games, and Mingo becomes a guy who may have more relevance sooner rather than later. We're starting to get deep down into the waiver wire stashes now because Salvon Ahmed, Miami Dolphins running back, is next on my list. Admittedly, this stash may not be long-lived. Last week I told you to stash Jeff Wilson Jr., who's logged a limited practice this week. At the time of this recording, it's unclear whether he'll suit up in week 6, but on the chance he sits out one more week, Salvon Ahmed is next up in Miami. Raheem Mostert will take on the bulk of the work, but considering he and Achane were splitting touches, Ahmed could take on a bigger role than just being a change of pace back. This is one stash to keep an eye on though, with Jeff Wilson potentially making his way back into the fold. Up next is Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Rondale Moore, who is rostered in 8% of leagues. Rondale has been the definition of a gadget guy for Arizona this year. He's only seen 5+ targets in 2 games, but also has 2 games with over 50 rushing yards. I can't help but wonder if, with James Conner on IR, Rondale Moore sees a slight uptick in rushing opportunities. I'm not talking anything crazy or Deebo Samuel-esque like 8 to 10 carries, but clearly he's been dynamic with the ball in his hands, so why not create more opportunities for him in the rush attack? It may be a dart throw, but if you're in a deep league and looking for a stash, Rondale is your guy at the wide receiver position. Wrapping out our list this week is Jordan Mason, running back for the San Francisco 49ers, who's rostered in 3% of leagues. This is all about the handcuff, baby. We all know Jordan Mason isn't going to chip into Christian McCaffrey's work. But with Elijah Mitchell dealing with a knee injury, Jordan Mason is next in line to be the team's backup. We never wish for injury, obviously, but should anything happen to Christian McCaffrey, you're going to want to make sure you have his insurance policy, and at the moment, it's Jordan Mason. Alrighty, y'all, that is all I have for you today. Remember, if you want a chance at winning a glorious 36-inch fantasy championship trophy for your fantasy league, courtesy of our good friends over at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy tournament trophies, you need to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment on this video, and that is it. That is all you need to do. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure you turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to come claim your prize when we announce it.